In this video, we're going to do an overview of the Unity editor. Everything you're looking at here, this is where all of the magic happens. This is how video games and applications are built in Unity. It doesn't matter if it's a first-person shooter game, an MMO, a simple mobile game, it is built in this editor environment. I promise you very quickly, Unity, the editor itself, will become secondhand so that you can actually focus on building your applications and less so being kind of intimidated by everything we see here. In the coming videos, I'm going to show you a better layout that actually is going to allow you to be more productive and make things a lot easier when making games. But I want to start with this main view here called the scene view. The scene view is where everything in your game is built. This is where we're actually going to build our environments and our levels. If I wanted to create, for example, a floor, I would go to Game Object, 3D Object, and we're going to get lots of practice with this in the coming videos. But I could create, for example, a cube, and that cube is going to be in my scene, and anything that is in my scene is pretty much what makes up my video game. So if I was creating a racing game, I would create my racing track and put my player here, and everything related to my racing game would go inside the scene. The next tab is the game view, which is right next to the scene view. You can switch between these two. The game view is everything that the camera, your main camera, can actually see. And the game view is how your game is going to look and feel. So we can actually play test this by running the game in the editor, and we will begin to see how our game is going to look and feel in a published state. To stop playing, we just unclick it again. The next view here that's really important is the hierarchy. Now the hierarchy in the left column here, this is everything that makes up your Unity scene. So for example, I have a main camera, and if I select the main camera, we can see that it's selected in the scene view. And if I were to drag this translate tool in the forward direction, we can see what the main camera sees. And if we go back to our game view, our main camera has been updated. If I move the main camera to be centered on the cube, go back to the game view, we can see those changes take effect. The hierarchy is everything that makes up the current scene. So for example, we have our main camera, a directional light, in the cube that I recently created. The next important column that you need to focus on is the inspector. The inspector is going to give us detailed information about the game object or asset that we have currently selected. For example, I have the cube selected, so I'm seeing information about the cube. The cube has a transform, which holds its position data, its rotation data, and its scale data. It has some other components like a mesh filter, a mesh renderer, and a box collider. The directional light, if I select that, the inspector is going to update with information about that game object. You can see here as well that there is a transform component that holds the position, rotation, and scale of a game object. We have a light component, and if we select our main camera, we can see again that we have a transform component, which holds the position, rotation, and scale, a camera component, and an audio listener component so that it can actually pick up audio in your game. The inspector is going to be really important, as well as other assets. So this is where the project view is going to come into play. The project view is down here, and the project view is everything that's available to you to make your video games. This is where you are going to store all of your assets, including 3D models, your textures, your animations, your 2D sprites, anything you want to do, your sound clips, your audio effects, anything that makes up your game or application is going to be stored in the project view. And from the project view, we'll be able to drag and drop things into the hierarchy view and use them in our scene view to actually build things out. You can see there's another tab here called the console. The console is really useful for debugging information. When you get into the programming side of things, this is going to be where you will spend a lot of time. So that's the core of the Unity editor. Real quickly, something that's changed over the years with Unity is they've gone with a modern flat design. And as Unity versions change, the editor actually hasn't changed all that much over the years. For example, tutorials that were built 10 years ago are still very relative and practical because the Unity editor for the most part hasn't changed that much. Something that is newly adapted is within the scene view. You'll see here that we have a bunch of different tabs, and a new feature of Unity 2021 and later is that these are actually all dockable components. I can actually drag these things out and put them in my scene view if I wanted to, or I could drag them and I could re-dock them up here. In Unity, this is a new thing that they recently introduced, but it allows you, and I just totally hid that, and I don't actually know how to get that back. I'm gonna hit Control Z, and that didn't work. If I ever were to do that, like do that again, like let's say here I accidentally hide this, like where did it go? I have no idea. So I'm just gonna go to Layout, and then I'm gonna select Default, and everything is now back to normal. So I can try that again, where you can basically organize and dock these things within here however you see fit. Now, we will go over some of these things. For example, in the next video when we talk about how to manipulate game objects, a lot of these tools just help you manipulate game objects in the scene view. For example, if we select our cube, we can see here that the icon is changing as I use one of these tools around it. And there's just a handful of selections here that kind of let us do things in the scene view. But as we create games and applications throughout your time here, we'll be coming across variations of when to use all these different tools. But for now, this is just an editor overview. Hopefully it's not as scary as it might seem. In the next video, we're going to take a look at doing some challenges, creating some game objects.